Closing item 23, moving on to item 24, Commission General Regulations for possible action adoption. Commission General Regulation 468, bonus point transfer, LCB file R104-16, Management Analyst 3, Maureen Hollinger for possible action. The Commission will consider amending Chapter 502 of the Nevada Administrative Code. Existing regulation provides for the accumulation of bonus points by a person who applies for certain drawings for tags required for hunting certain species. Such bonus points accumulate and give the person a mathematical advantage in subsequent drawings for a tag. Under existing regulations, a person who changes his or her state of residence may request a transfer of any accumulated bonus points to himself or herself as a resident or non-resident of the state as appropriate. This regulation change provides the authority to the department to make such a transfer automatic upon the person's change of residence. The Commission held a workshop on this regulation change on August 12, 2016. The Commission did not have any recommended changes and requested to consider adoption of this regulation at the September Commission meeting. Ms. Holliger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maureen Hollinger, Nevada Department of Wildlife License Office. This is the second reading on the CGR 468. Like the chairman stated, there were no changes recommended out of the workshop in August. The regulation will simplify for our big game applicants the understanding of this portion of the bonus point program and will eliminate the loss of points for those who don't understand the program. We recommend that the Commission approve this regulation change.
Thank you, Maureen. Any questions by the Commission? Comments by the Commission? This is an action item. I'll take it out to public comment in Elko.
Elko Cab, our cab is in full support of this particular regulation.
Thank you, Jim. Any further public comment in Elko? Thank you. Public comment in Reno?
No comment in Reno, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Public comment in Las Vegas? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the Commission for,
No, I was going to make a motion, but I need a microphone to do it.
bring it back to the Commission for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve Commission General Regulation 468 bonus point transfer LCB file R104-16 as presented.
I second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Vice Chairman Johnston and a second by Commissioner Hubbs to approve Commission General Regulation 468 as presented. Call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimous. 8-0 with Commissioner Young still absent. Moving on to agenda item 25, Commission General Regulation 469, Truckee River Tackle Restriction. LCB file number R094-16, Fisheries Division Administrator John Schoberg for possible action. The Commission will consider amending Chapter 503 of the Nevada Administrative Code. The change revises NAC 503.504 to require the use of certain types of fishing tackle in portions of the Truckee River. Only artificial lures with single barbless hooks may be used on the Truckee River from 1,000 feet downstream of Derby Dam to the Pyramid Lake Paiute Reservation boundary from February 1st through May 31st each year to reduce incidental mortality of spawning adult Lahontan cutthroat trout. The Commission held a workshop on this regulation change on August 12, 2016. The Commission did not have any recommended changes and requested to consider adoption of this at the September Commission meeting. Mr. Schoberg.
For the record, John Schoberg, Fisheries Division Administrator, Nevada Department of Wildlife. Thank you, Chairman Wallace and Commissioners. Again, there are no changes from what we had presented at the August meeting. It's fairly self-explanatory. It's important to point out that this is a companion piece to that change in CR 1602. Although this has to be in regulation because it's a method of change in tackle for that portion of the river. I do have a brief PowerPoint. It's actually an abbreviated version of the one we gave in August, but I thought if it's acceptable, we'd go through that again because we do have a couple of new commissioners who didn't have the opportunity to get some of this background. Shouldn't take more than a few minutes.
That sounds good.
As soon as Doug makes all his magic happen there. Oh, there we go, here it comes. It's just taking its sweet time. We're on, Doug. It's just taking a little, it's slowly becoming obvious that it's there. There we go. Oh. Okay, so again, this is a little bit of background on the proposed CGR 469 Truckee River tackle restriction. Again, we've already gone through the specific language and the objective, which is to reduce incidental mortality of adult LCT due to angling in that reach of the river and during that seasonal period when we anticipate we'll have spawning adults there. And it's a companion in part to the requested changes in CR 1602. Just as a little background, we have been working closely with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe on strategies for restoration of Lahan cutthroat trout, which includes reestablishing over time a natural run of LCT in the river. And hopefully, again, over time, they will become part of that maintenance of the Truckee River recreational fishery. While the Pyramid Lake Tribe manages the fishery downstream of the reservation boundary, we have the primary responsibility for managing that fishery once you're outside of the tribal lands and for the remainder of the river. And we have a companion relationship with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service because both the Kiwi and the Lahan cutthroat trout are listed species under the Endangered Species Act, although as I had mentioned in the discussion yesterday, Lahan cutthroat trout has what's called a 4D rule that allows state regulation of angler harvest. What we're talking about here are what they call the Pilot Peak strain of Lahan cutthroat trout. The original native, if you will, strain of Lahan cutthroat trout was lost from Pyramid Lake probably by the mid-40s. Then Nevada Fish and Game worked closely with the Pyramid Lake Tribe beginning in the early 1950s to reestablish Lahan cutthroat trout into Pyramid Lake using stocks from a variety of sources. The Pilot Peak strain was rediscovered, if you will, in the late 1970s and is believed to have been fish that were stocked from that original Pyramid Lake strain, and genetics suggest that they are actually the original Pyramid Lake stock that had been captured and was rediscovered in this small stream in eastern Nevada. And so the Fish and Wildlife Service began working with that strain and with the Pyramid Lake Tribe, and in 2006 began stocking those fish into Pyramid Lake, the Pilot Peak strain of LCT. What we found is that they do very well in a lake environment. It's not unusual to see fish, adult fish, now being caught in the low to mid 20-pound range. I believe the largest fish to date is about 26 pounds. We know they do very well in Pyramid Lake. We don't know how well they will do in the river because they haven't been stocked in the river other than just for put and take fishing. But that better understanding is an important part of the strategy going forward, and one of the reasons why we want to protect spawning LCT as they're allowed to move into the river and spawn naturally, to see how they really will do in that river environment. Really quickly, a little geography lesson. Pyramid Lake, immediately above Pyramid Lake is what's called the Marble Bluff Fish Facility. This is a joint facility of the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Pyramid Lake Tribe. Traditionally, spawning period LCT would be moving up out of the lake, captured at that facility, and spawned in the facility. Upstream of that a little ways is Numana Dam. Then you'll see the Pyramid Lake boundary is that third pin, and then you see where Derby Dam is further upstream. Oops. There there. Marble Bluff Fish Facility, typically in the past, LCT weren't allowed to pass there, but they have started allowing adult fish to go above Marble Bluff now to see how they do in the river. And increasingly, and in, again, almost 500 fish were passed in 2016. And what they're seeing is that they do appear to be actively spawning and making reds and spawning in the river, similar to this, although this photo is from below Marble Bluff. So we know that the adult LCT are using river environments to spawn if they're given the opportunity. The intent, depending on flows and other conditions, is to let fish go past Numana Dam upstream beginning in 2017. It's about 12 miles above Pyramid Lake. It does have a functional fish ladder. What this does is open another 27 miles of the river up for spawning habitat up to Derby Dam. So our requested regulation and CR amendment are intended to address this potential. Is that the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Pyramid Lake Tribe will be letting fish go past Numana Dam upstream with potential spawning beginning in 2017. Derby Dam, it was constructed in 1905. It's a complete passage barrier. It has a bypass channel / fish ladder, which is currently not being operated for reasons that we discussed earlier. Once that screen is done, and we don't know when that will happen, fish could be allowed to go past this point, spawning adult LCT, but we do not know when that will happen. So, real briefly, increasing numbers of LCT either are or are anticipated to be moving into the Truckee River to spawn, depending on where you are. These regulations are intended to reduce incidental mortality of those fish during spawning period. But we want to make sure we maintain angler opportunity, both for other species in there, and to allow catch and release fishing. We think there's a very minor impact on spawning fish, and it will continue to maintain not only that fishing opportunity, but the interest from anglers in our working towards restoration of the native Lahontan cutthroat trout in the river. That's what I had. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that, and I'm sure the new commissioners appreciate that as well.
Wanted to give a little more background so everyone was on the same page.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Schoberg? Hearing none from the commission, this is an action item. I'll take it out to public comment in Elko.
No comment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Public comment in Reno.
Comment in Reno, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And public comment in Las Vegas. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for a motion or discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve CGR 469 as presented by the department.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner McNinch and a second by Vice Chairman Johnston to approve Commission General Regulation 469 as presented by the department. Any further discussion, or I'm going to call for the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 8-0.